Welcome back, everyone, to the Spark Network. I am your fire starter, Tyrone Ross, CEO of Onramp Invest, and I have a special guest here with me today, very, very special, near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons that we'll probably get into some point. Christina Lewis, who is a social entrepreneur and investor. How are you today, Queen?
Oh, I am so well, Tyrone King. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, there's so many ways I want to take this conversation with you and just want to leave it open and share a lot of the love and light that you're putting into the world. So let's just start right away with what it is that you're currently working on. I know there are a lot of things that you are working on that are purposely, to affect change in the Black community. But let's, we can start with All Star Code, what you're doing now, and then of course there's some other things we'll venture into as well.
Sure, Tyrone. Well, it's a new year. Happy 2021. I feel that 2021 just started, last week with the Biden and the new administration. The first president, I think, to acknowledge white supremacy.
Yes.
And as someone who's really devoted, the bulk of my like adulthood and professional life to supporting Black lives, especially in economic justice, that is a really powerful moment for me, and especially to have the first Black woman vice president. Um, and so I'm a social entrepreneur as well as investor and philanthropist, and All Star Code is the first or nonprofit that I founded. As you know, there are so few Black people or Latinos in tech, right? Especially in tech startups, but also in computer science. In 2013, I set out to change that, but by focusing on this group that felt essentially forgotten
Right.
in in the space, which was Black boys,
Hmm.
Black and Latino boys. There were virtually no programs targeting them and ensuring that they could help them learn coding, learn computer science. So All Star Code is focused on young men of color and developing them into a new generation of entrepreneurs who have the tools they need to succeed. And what we do through that is by teaching coding, but also leadership skills. We've graduated over 750 students so far.
Awesome.
85% are in college, and I believe about 60, almost 70% are majoring in computer science.
That is incredible. So again, that is something that is near and dear to my heart because I also advocate heavily for Black boys, and I constantly say there is nothing for Black boys in an industry that continues to want to talk about financial literacy, financial education. I talk about a few facets to that. One is 70% of Black Americans do not live near a bank branch, so it is very foreign to us and we're not giving the skills and access like myself, right? Growing up in an unbanked home and not knowing what the stock market was until I was 26, where I later became, familiar with your dad. But the other part of that is 10% of eighth grade Black boys only can read at level, 10%. So what good is anything else, whether it's STEM, whether it's financial education or whatever, if we can't make sure that these boys are armed with the tools and resources in education to be able to empower themselves to absorb the information that we are trying to get to them. So I give you kudos for what you're doing and realizing that, because I will say this personally, every time I go to a committee or organization about this, they're reluctant to do it. Oh, well, what can maybe we can open it? No, 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 no. Black boys, right?
Yeah,
So I'm,
totally.
I'm sure you are very familiar with that.
Yeah, especially in 2013, it was really hard to explain why it was important to invest in Black boys and specifically in Black boys. For example, in New York City, as of a few years ago, only 29% of Black boys who entered in ninth grade graduated 4 or 5 years later. Only 29%. So yes, the challenge is grave, but the opportunity is exciting as well, to really open the funnel. There is a desperate need for, for more workers, for more productive citizens.
Hmm.
And so closing the racial wealth gap, the racial equity gap, has to involve focusing investment on Black boys because they're clearly under so many pressures. And George Floyd, the tragic murder, um, but I think helped. The silver lining is it did shine light on one of the many challenges that particularly Black men, as well as women face. But yeah, it was really challenging. I will say that uh, tech companies and others have started releasing data and dividing it by gender. But it is something I'd encourage everyone to think about, that Black women and girls certainly deserve and need support, but that in many areas there really is a role for Black boys and Black males to receive targeted support as well.
I couldn't agree more. And if you wouldn't mind, I would love to stay in that discussion of George Floyd and what we would have hoped and continue to strive for that is happening in this country since then. And I will admit, I didn't watch the full video. I couldn't. I just can't watch another man who looks like me dying in the street. Can't do it. But I saw, I obviously you saw the impact afterwards, and I saw little clips of it. And again, I can't even begin to describe the disappointment, the hurt, the fear, so many different things. But I would love to know, and I would tell you how I felt. I almost felt I had to do something personally. I had to go bigger. I had to make sure whatever it is that I was doing now, it was no longer about going through this whole elaborate process of 19 different processes of going to affect, things that affect the Black community and Black boys. I'm like, I have to go myself. And that is how my educational series Learn to Money was built. I'm like, I'm done with what financial literacy looks like. I'm doing it myself, which is why my nonprofit Evolve came out of this, right? Exposure, education, empowerment, to specifically focus on literacy rates for Black boys and financial education in the country, and what the largest financial firms are not doing to make sure that those at the bottom get educated and ultimately are pulled into our business. So I felt the need to go bigger and be empowered myself, which I know you started a new organization and things that you were doing. So tell us a little bit about how you felt, how it affected you, and what you pulled out of yourself as a result of seeing, which we know in this country happens way too often.
Yes, well, being able to be out front and saying that Black Lives Matter, and seeing so many people who aren't Black adopting that and really starting to think about systemic racism uh, was a sea change from from before. Well, to understand me, it's hard to do that without understanding my mother and father. But my father, who I know is someone that you've looked up to. Reginald Lewis was really one of the leading Black businessmen in the country and in the world, and has inspired a whole new generation of Black entrepreneurs through his book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun? Fortunately, since he died in 1993 when I was 12, and I've become sort of the person who helps help keep alive his memory along with my mother. And we're promoting his book now. But he also was a philanthropist. He gave millions away, even as he was climbing to Howard, but also to Harvard, always focused on Black people and Black causes. And he invested in Black businesses. He bought Black art. And so when post George Floyd, I, having inherited that, saw this opportunity, and it was for Black-led nonprofits. You may not know this, but there is a wealth gap. There's also a giving gap.
Mm-hmm.
Of the $450 billion that Americans give away to charity, it's estimated that less than 4% go to Black-led nonprofits.
Wow.
And this is tragic because if you're doing charity and you're trying to alleviate poverty or alleviate society's issues, Black people facing so many of those challenges. Oh, I'm sorry. that. I hope that doesn't ring again. Um, I just need to turn this thing off. Um, okay, so
Black nonprofits and
yeah,
giving.
yeah. Black nonprofits are often closest to society's problems, so they should be getting a huge share of money going to charity. And now they're getting a share that's not even close to their proportion in the population. So we started with my founders an organization called Give Black. And its goal is to advance racial equity in giving and close this giving gap. What we're doing is we're building really the first and largest searchable database of Black led nonprofit organizations focused on Black founded. Before, if you wanted to give to a Black led organization, there was no easy way to find them. So we're solving that by creating this easy to use resource that our goal is to list every single one. Um, yeah, and so we launched in September, and we're proud to say that through our website and also through our partnerships, we've already funneled $150,000 to
Wow,
Black-led nonprofit organizations.
that's
We
awesome.
also launched a campaign called hashtag Giving Black Tuesday with Giving Tuesday on December 1. That was about encouraging people and raising awareness about the giving gap, and that one way to help close the wealth gap and solve for racial equity is to give to a Black led organization.
Yeah, awesome. That's incredible. Got to make sure Evolve gets on that list. Once
Yes,
we launch. Yeah, we'll be
definitely.
yeah, we're excited. We'll
Yes.
be launching soon, and one of the other principals of the nonprofit is a doctor who he's a robotic surgeon, grew up poor in Compton, incredible black man, incredible doctor, Dr. Royney. He's absolutely incredible. So we're excited about that. But yeah, we got to make sure we get
Yes,
connected
just
with
go
you.
to Give Black, GIVE Black, BLCK. There's
Okay.
no A. The missing A is for assets.
Ah,
Assets that were looted or withheld from the Black community. But giveblack.org. And just right in the top, there's a link, and you can submit your organization with some very simple info.
absolutely. So while we're still here, we will not leave this moment without talking a little more about your dad. But let's go back to the book. You said you're re-releasing the book. There's an audio version. Let's get into that a little bit
Yeah.
and talk about that some more and how people can, because there's still not enough people that have read this book and get attention to it. So
Yes.
let's dig into that.
Yeah, well, you were saying that this book is what led you into finance. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. It was shortly after I got there. Nobody looked like me, so it was actually recommended for sure.
Yeah. So, why should white guys have all the fun? What is Tart's my dad's story from being born in 1942, black in segregated Baltimore, and then to the end of his life when he was the wealthiest black man in America. And I believe the first black person to be on the Forbes 400. And he did that through leveraged buyouts. He was essentially became one of the forerunners of private equity. And at the time of his death, the company that he owned, Beatrice International Food Company, was the largest black-owned business in America by far. I think it was at least 10 times bigger than the number two business. And through his journey, he started off as a corporate lawyer. Again, born in Baltimore. His mother was just 17 when she had him. Um, it has inspired so many different people to pursue finance, but also to pursue entrepreneurship, but along a path that's about hard work. That's about paying your dues. That's about being thorough. And a commitment to excellence, but also with fun and with style. And when you read the book, Why White Guys Have All the Fun, you can see that that he was working, but he also had fun with it, and I think that's why it has so much resonance for so many people today, both including like you who you know you you're so young, and that's what we want to do. My mother and I, is to help get the word out about the book, and it's just been reissued on Audible. So for the first time now, you can listen to it. We have an amazing narrator, J.D. Jackson, who gave a great performance, and it also has a new introduction that I wrote,
That's
a new
awesome.
preface for people to listen to. So I encourage anyone who wants to learn about him, but also just learn about Black history or learn how to be successful. I mean, the tools for success are the same for anyone, right? To go buy it and check it out.
Very iconic cover too. Pops is looking real clean on the cover, so definitely style.
I definitely have
Yeah,
it.
if you got it, you got to show it. He's super clean on the front there. Absolutely.
It was the '80s, so the cigar. No, he stopped smoking those
Yeah.
towards the end, but yeah, that's him on Wall Street.
Amazing stuff. And again, I definitely want to take this moment for those that are watching. Again, you talk about what you're doing for Black boys, your dad's legacy, and all of those things. I am literally the apotheosis of that. As we were talking before we started recording, it encompasses so much for me because I feel like your dad's journey, his background, I have some similarities there. Obviously, being a Black male myself and being, having, to break bread in your home and meet you and your mom. But my mother was a teenage mother when she had my sister, 17. My dad came to this country from Guyana, literate, right? Middle school education, couldn't read and write. And I was the first one in my family to finish high school. Wall Street wasn't even talked about, wasn't thought about. College wasn't thought about. And it was only through sports that I was able to go to college. I didn't know what college was until I was 16. And when all these colleges started to recruit me, I didn't know where they were. I didn't know anything. And here it is, at 26 years old, I walk right past the New York Stock Exchange to my first Wall Street job and didn't know what the New York Stock Exchange was. I'm like, why are these people outside? It's cold, right? So, it was just so. And then once you do get there, what you start to realize again, finance is a very, very white male dominated industry. I didn't see anyone like myself. And it had probably been a couple times that I had spoken to some Black males that were fairly successful. And they were like, you have to read this book. And again, and then this was very early. And then years later, actually through a friend got connected to you, like I said, was able to just see the relics of your dad and his memory, and it brought so much to me. So I shared that with you before I was able to share with your mom. So this is an incredible moment for me, and again, I'm incredibly grateful for you, your family, and how you guys continue to move his legacy forward. But to your point, also, I see so many young men now with that book, and so many organizations, right, like wallstreetbound.org, which is another, that are pushing that book, Troy Prince and a lot of other folks. So it should be required reading, like I said. So it's really cool that's there. So before we let you go, definitely want to again give you the floor to talk about. Again, we are in a time now where purpose and passion, which are two of my core fundamental values and beliefs, gratitude, love, light, and effective giving, are at the fore. And these are the things that I believe are going to help us find the next generation of leaders, right? There are 43 million 10 to 19-year-olds in this country, 43 million, right? And these are the kids that we fight for every day, you and I. So I would just love to hear from you. What inspires you now? What are you hopeful about? And what are you looking to accomplish, obviously, over these next 4 years? Not necessarily due to the administration, but just because I think we all have a fresh start. It's no secret the country is divided, but folks like yourself and others are going to help us heal. So how are you feeling now? What are you focused on? And what would be your call to action for people that are watching this?
Ooh, well, big questions. Having been so clearly focused on, on Black lives and racial equity for years, having started All Star Code. 2020 and seeing this, what happened when tens of millions of people, more people, started caring about systemic racism. Um, it felt like the cavalry was here.
Yeah,
In a
yeah,
way that, as Ta-Nehisi Coates said, it feels like finally the battle is joined. Right. Not that we're winning, but at least now the level of resources that are being put into this are, coming to fruition. So I think that it's, you know I would encourage people to lean in, to that. Black lives and this problem of, that started with slavery in this country, is a huge problem, and we need, tens of millions of people, all of us, to come together and tackle it, to end white supremacy, and to recreate America as a non-racist place, and do that being anti-racist. So I'd encourage everyone, white and black,
mhm,
by the way, because this isn't a side, but just because you're black doesn't mean you're anti-racist.
right,
I think
right,
the days of, this is a new thing, but I think the days of black people just being successful on their own and thinking that that's enough because they're a credit to the race, like, I don't believe that anymore. I think it is time to actually go and be doing something concrete in public, as you were doing, for, for people. I encourage to lean in, as I say, to continue leaning in to racial equity, and whether that's just picking up a book, a new book, right? You read one in June, right?
right.
Pick up another one, or
Yeah,
mentoring a younger, financial professional, or heck, even an older one, mentoring, but, or partnering, offering up friendship, and those chances, first chances, but, even like second chances, and compassion to someone in the field. And another way, of course, is investing in Black-owned businesses, and, giving to Black-led nonprofit organizations, as those are the ones that are, that are doing work on the ground, and that are also closest to this problem. But I'd say that's the big one, to keep leaning into, into anti-racism, would be my call for all of us.
yeah. I will add one more, which is folks should reach out to you and look up your organization. So if
Yes.
they were to, how would they do that? What's the best way for
Yes.
folks to?
Um, well, the easiest way might be to find me on social media at the Christina99, on Instagram in particular, but I'm also on Twitter, as well as LinkedIn, a little less so. But, to find me there, and whether it's All Star Code or Give Black, I can help arrange. But then All Star Code is ALLSTARCODE.org. You can sign up for our mailing lists, and we just launched applications for our new class. And we have an amazing team there who are making plans, for the new year and strategy. We've gone all virtual. And then with Give Black, you can email hello@giveblack, GIVEBLCK.org, and also get answers there. But the best way is to just reach out to me, and you can follow me, on those
Yeah, we
platforms.
gotta get those
I
followers
share
up.
a lot. In Now that we're all virtual, I've been spending a lot more time on social, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
meeting people too. But
Oh,
I really love what you're doing, and congratulations on what you're doing with your company, and the round that you're closing, but also this work that you're doing, helping to elevate others.
no,
And me, I
yeah.
really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Again, I told you beforehand, I would be remiss without saying the moment that I shared with your mom, what that meant for me. And that was years ago. And I'd gone through a lot since then. And I was kind of at that moment where finance was getting heavy. And I stayed in it, and that conversation with her helped me endure. And I just remember going home and talking to my mother. And I just remember being really emotional about that talk that I had with your mom. And I was blessed enough to tell her about that. So I'm grateful to you again, grateful to your family. I'm exemplary of what you guys put into the world. So thank you, because it empowers me to do what I do. And I will end on this note by saying, if you are watching this right now, I always tell people whenever I do these, it's very easy to not do anything feeling like you need to do everything. Start where your feet are, start with micro giving right where you are in your communities, and let's start to impact lives that are right next to us. Also, there is no reason why 1 in 4 children in this country should be hungry. If you are able at all, please make sure that a child is fed. The greatest group of hungry and those living in poverty in this country are children. No Kid Hungry.org, Covenant House, Feeding America. There's so many organizations that are doing this. That is near and dear to my heart. I was that kid on the lunch line with no lunch money. I know what that's like. It's a horrible thing. No child should experience that.
That's
So
true.
thank you everybody for tuning in,
Yes,
So
and on giveblack.org, you can find in our health in our human services category, you can find Black-founded nonprofits that are doing that work of just
love it.
helping people, human services. And
Love
so
it.
I encourage you to check it out if you want to find organizations, Black-led organizations to support.
For sure.
Thank
I
you,
am on.
Tyrone.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for the time. We'll see you all on the next one. Love and light to you. I appreciate you.